A reading from John, chapter 20, verses 1 through 18. On the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there, and the cloth that had been on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, who reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing it to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned around and said in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. To truly appreciate Christ's resurrection, we need to grapple with scale. I've had the Mark Twain quote that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme, stuck in my head. The stories of the Bible certainly rhyme, and the events of Christ's life in particular intentionally resonate with stories across the Old Testament. We see elements of Elijah, David, and Moses. Jesus lives the life of a traveling miracle worker, constantly being put to the test. He's the king no one would have picked out of the crowd, and his miraculous birth involves narrowly avoiding being killed by a king willing to kill indiscriminately in a bid for power. In the climax of Christ's story, his death and resurrection, our minds should immediately swing to the Exodus, and particularly the events that culminate in God parting the Red Sea. It's not just that they both share a connection to the Passover. Placing the events of Christ's passion and rising in amongst the Passover celebration gives us a Rosetta Stone for interpreting the vastness of what occurs. In the Exodus, God battles Pharaoh and wins. The narrative frames the whole thing as a battle between God and a wannabe god. The structure of ancient Egyptian society connected the power of the gods with the power of the pharaoh. It helped that the pharaoh had the most powerful army in existence. Moses serves as divine spokesman, but God does the combat, lobbing plague after plague as the artillery barrage to warn the enemy of the true strength behind God's position. As Pharaoh thinks that he can continue the fight, God harnesses the sea and defeats the unbeatable army in one go, winning the cosmic scale battle. God 1, wannabe Pharaoh God 0. We know that Christ's resurrection has cosmic importance, but we often tell the story of it only on a personal level. A man died, torturously, out of love for us all. That same man didn't stay dead long. This is what happened. But simply saying that doesn't explain why those events contain soul-saving and world-shaping power. Other people get resurrected. Lazarus and that guy who got so bored listening to Paul that he fell out of a window and died, for instance. And none of those events saved humanity's collective soul. So what's so different here? As with the Exodus, we again bear witness to a cosmic battle between Rome, human brokenness and death on one side, and God on the other. A potent group of forces collect on the adversary side of this battle. A meme recently went around my weird corner of the internet implying that most men think about the Roman Empire far more than the women in their lives would expect. I'll admit that it hit home for me because I spend a huge amount of my professional life interjecting, "Think about the Romans!" into any New Testament conversation. Here in particular, the Romans did the actual killing! In the early 1st century, Rome's rise must have felt endless. They dwarfed the empires who came before, and their particular brand of power-hungry, self-interested cowardice meant that Pilate, Rome's representative, felt perfectly comfortable doing the expedient thing to strengthen the Roman position by knowingly putting an innocent man to death. Evil and human failing get their own starring role. Judas proves temptable. The temple leadership, perhaps to maintain their own power, arrest and hand over the Son of God for death at the hand of their supposed enemy, while knowing full well who it is that they're killing. The crowd swings in the wind, echoing whatever gets suggested in the moment. Whether we personify it in the person of Satan or not, evil and its willing collaborators do a lot of the legwork to kill Jesus. Everyone makes their own choices. Judas chooses to betray and take the silver. The chief priest and team actively form their own plot. Their twisted desires allow evil to strike a decisive blow and put Emmanuel, God among us, in the grave. The absoluteness of death picks up the battle here. Death is one of life's few absolutes. Everyone dies. And with shockingly few exceptions, they stay dead. As a species, we find this finality terrifying. Even in understanding a life beyond death, the grave still holds a primal power. You live on, but you don't return to this life. In speaking his last and giving up his spirit, Christ enters the domain of death, a powerful and permanent one-way trip into the lands of one of humanity's oldest foes. That Christ willingly enters in this trap demonstrates, for all time, God's love for us. And then he rises back out of it demonstrates God's ability and willingness to vanquish any foe. This combination of choosing to enter a painful cosmic battle and then emerging victorious give this specific resurrection its potency. Rome, as a stand-in for all powers and principalities, evil, human failure, and Satan, and death, working together, outstrip the power of a mere pharaoh. They even get presented the upper hand. Instead of sending plagues, Jesus allows himself to get taken into their grasp, never exerts his power, and dies a criminal's death. Then, he rises, revealing all other forces in the universe as pretenders to the true throne of power. On that third day, God bats them away, and Jesus steps out of the grave, securing a cosmic victory. The intimate story of a man's painful death matters, because it proves God's love for us. But we should never lose sight of the bigger picture. Plenty before and after have died worthy deaths. A few here and there have even risen from the grave. Christ's death on that cross was a bold move in a cosmic battle, and the resurrection was the ultimate reminder that it wasn't much of a fight. God just wins. And, in loving and winning, God opens resurrection and victory up to us all.